Hello, friends. Tom Butwin here with another episode of Everything Mayer. We're talking everything John Mayer. And for this week's episode, we got a couple different topics that we're going to cover. So we're going to take a look at just where we are after the solo tour has ended and probably the solo format has ended. So a little solo tour hangover, if you will. We're going to talk about how Last Train Home was written and kind of where it started. And then the third and final very exciting thing we're going to talk about is some archival mid-90s recordings that have surfaced thanks to an incredible documentarian. And you've probably seen his work if you're in the Mayer world, but we'll get to that at the end of the show here, so stick around for it. And if you want to support the show, we do now have membership levels. So check out the join button below. There's 2 different levels, and you can support the show and get some extra perks and things like that, and I would sincerely appreciate it. Of course, free support comes in the form of liking, commenting, and actually, you know what? Watching and listening all the way to the end is like one of the best ways you can support for free. Of course, it costs you some time, and I appreciate you spend the time with us, me, here at Everything Mayer. So let's kick this off and talk about where we are after the incredible probably final leg of any solo acoustic tour for a while. As we went through each leg of this, and as many of you pointed out, just in addition to the things I pointed out in previous videos, it changed. It didn't, I mean, the set pieces, not the set list, but the actual stage set didn't change. The format kind of stayed the same, but there were differences in the song choices, certainly, as the tour grew. I mean, if you go back to the beginning of the solo tour, he was still kind of figuring things out, feeling things out, seeing where and what would fit and how it would work best. It was cool because we saw things like Edge of Desire become a moment, kind of a pillar of the show, some experimentation that would happen at the piano looping middle section. And then, of course, the myriad of sign requests that brought out all kinds of material from back in the day and new songs, which we haven't heard in a while, and I got a whole video on that. So where do we go from here? Well, obviously, just schedule-wise, the Sphere shows are up next. So let me know what you think about that. Are you excited? Are you a Deadhead? Are you not? I come from kind of the place where, you know, before Mayer joined Dead and Company, my real jumping off point for the Grateful Dead was the Touch of Grey video. I remember seeing that as a kid. And quite frankly, like, that was the only song I knew. It just, the Dead thing just hadn't really come to my attention. It wasn't really something I was interested in. But once Mayer joined, as with many of us, I'm sure we became more interested in Grateful Dead music and, of course, Dead and Company. So I'm excited from a John Mayer fan standpoint. That's how I always, you know, I've seen Dead and Company a couple times live, and that's always been my favorite part about it, is that I get to just watch my favorite artist and guitar player just kind of be uninhibited and, you know, by maybe like what, you know, his actual music allows him to do. Of course, he can do whatever he wants, but I mean, obviously there's a thing that he does as a solo artist, and then being in Dead and Company, it expands that a bit. So I'm excited for those shows. It's in a crazy venue, so I'm interested to see visually what they do there. Obviously, U2 kind of set the standard, being the first band to play there. So it'll be interesting to see what Dead and Company does. I'm sure they'll come up with something very exciting. But beyond that, what are we looking at? Are we looking at new music? I mean, I don't think you're going to see him touring for a while. Probably not until there's a new record or new song released or something like that. Yeah, we could definitely have another off-cycle, non-album tour like he did before the Sob Rock tour, which I loved. It was great, you know, because Sob Rock was very focused on Sob Rock, and as it should have been, both in the visuals and the aesthetics as well as the song choices. But I wouldn't hate, you know, a career retrospective full band tour again. Let me know what you think. What do you want to see him do next? I think we're all, you know, excited about new music, of course, but it's not the same as maybe 15 years ago. He's got an incredible catalog. If you pulled a Billy Joel and never put out another new song at this point, he could certainly exist off of what he's written very easily, you know, for the rest of his career. He's not going to do that, of course, but he could. So I don't know. I think as with, I didn't get to see any of the European shows, but there's just, a hair of that like sadness when the tour ends. I know what I'm talking about. If you go to a show, particularly a JM show, once it's over, you're like, oh man, I don't have that on my calendar anymore. There's like kind of that just post-show lull that happens occasionally, which I think is normal and it's good. And it's one of the reasons why, we enjoy live music so much, is because of the roller coaster ride that it takes us on. So where do you think we're going to go next after the solo tour? My prediction is Dead & Company, obviously this summer. Probably a little break. I know he's really excited about the Life with John Mayer Sirius XM channel, so that'll continue. And then, maybe just a little bit of a break on for at least the public-facing stuff. And then come back with some new music and probably some touring. But I don't know. I don't know about the touring, I don't know how far away we are from another full band tour. Hopefully not too far, because there is nothing better than John Mayer with the full band. So, speaking of non-full band things, let's talk about Last Train Home. Now, this is the opening track off of Sob Rock, and if you're like me, like I have yet to get sick of this song, which is really crazy. I think maybe part of that is because of the ballad version that came out. That's sort of like, I went to a different version, and that's all I listened to for a while, and then I came back to the album version, and then of course we have the acoustic version. Now, we've heard it before on acoustic guitar, which is cool. It's a great way to break down a song, and it's a measure, I think, in a lot of ways of how good a song actually is. Can you break it down just to a single instrument and voice and have it hold up? And absolutely, it certainly holds up. So we're going to check out his Dublin performance of Last Train Home. But most importantly, we're going to listen first of all, and then talk about his explanation of where his head was when he was writing this. So let's just see what he has to say here. Thank you to the Nile O Fella on YouTube. So if you happen to check this out, go give his channel a sub, because I appreciate you capturing this video in 4K.
So I like playing this song this way because it's actually how I wrote this song. Now, I put it on a record that was like my love letter to late 80s music, but it was written in this very sort of Crosby, Stills and Nash 70s Joni Mitchell style. And that's where you always move the chord over the bass. You know? It's the late 70s. So I wanted to do it too because very greedy musically. So I'm going to play the song in the way that I originally written. If you want to roll, then you gotta roll it.
Yeah, so go check out the rest of that performance for sure. But I think the important thing is here is, he's playing a 12-string guitar. So that allows him to do what he explained there was this very, as he said, 70s thing where you have a droning kind of bass note and then chords changing on top of it. Normally when a chord changes, the bass note, whether it's being played by a keyboard or a bass guitar, changes along with that chord. In some parts of Last Train Home, that doesn't happen. And Sean Hurley, who plays bass on the song, does a great job of propelling the song forward and keeping things interesting as the chords sort of kind of float on top of it. And the floating is really helped by the 12-string guitar, because that gives you that really jangly, big sound. But it's kind of cool to see that, once again, there's such intention with everything that John Mayer does, whether it be the way things look, certainly the way things sound, but then also what he's writing. He's got a very clear vision of what he's trying to achieve. And in this case, the Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young type thing from the 70s is how the song started. Now, what's interesting to me is that the treatment that this song got on Sob Rock is absolutely not that. It is, a decade and a half later, with the synth keyboards that Greg Fillinganes played and the very specific drum tones that Aaron Sterling brought to it, and then of course the guitar and bass, and then Maren Morris's vocals. So it's this like song that it's really cool to see how a song can go through different iterations. You know, I think there's some songs that are just kind of like, they are what they are, and they're just a certain type of song. And they can be changed. You could do Enter Sandman in a slow, sad acoustic way, of course. I'm sure somebody's done it. But that song, I think, personally, just kind of is meant to be the way Metallica originally played it. This song, though, and that's not to drag, you know, Enter Sandman or any other song, but like this song, I think it's so, the melody is so strong, the music is so strong that you can do it in many different ways. He could have absolutely done this if maybe it was on Born and Raised, for example. He could have made this song fit on Born and Raised, which I think is really cool because Born and Raised is a much different album than Sob Rock. But instead, between Mayer, the musicians on the track, like I mentioned, Don Was the producer, they took it in a different direction. And we know where it ended up. And it's super cool to see the progression from this 70s acoustic, folky kind of, California sort of thing, translate into a slick 80s, early 90s style recording reminiscent of Eric Clapton and Mark Knopfler and all of that stuff that was happening at that time. So super cool. And just a little window into, of course, the mind of Mayer, which is always entertaining. All right, so next up, the thing I'm most excited about here, the history of Neon. Is interesting. Now, I think that we found some stuff. And by we, I mean a very special documentarian on Instagram and on YouTube. And you can follow him at Easty7. Easty7, that's right. That's his name is Eastwood Allen. And he put out a documentary 10 years ago that he put together called Someday I'll Fly. Now, if you're a Mayer fan, I'm sure you're aware of this. If you're not aware of it, go check it out. It's very easy to find out there. Should be, at least. I haven't looked for it in a while, but hopefully it still is. But, through making that documentary, I almost said documentary, he made connections with, I think he's met John Mayer. He's, certainly met some people that John Mayer worked early on with, and that's how this came about. Now, I said the history of Neon. It's a motif that exists. I don't know that this song that we're going to hear, this version, called Something Like Neon from 1996, is necessarily the precursor to Neon. We've heard other things as far as like how a song might go from one to another. A lot of artists will have, an unfinished or kind of interesting kind of idea that then translates into one of their iconic songs. I don't know that this is how Neon was written. I do think, though, Easty7 is correct in his assessment that the motif of neon itself, just, what that represents, what the word can represent, was definitely on his mind, and I don't think it had been fully developed yet with this song. But let's check it out, and we'll talk about it in just a minute. So here is from 1996, Something Like, appropriately named based on how we're discussing it, Something Like Neon.
Neon, neon, driving on. Black and neon.
Still groovy. Really cool video, man. Eastwood. So cool.
Driving's one, we've changed our minds. Dashboard lights, eerie glow, shows me you, I'll never
know. Obviously, song structure changed for Mayer later on.
I needed somewhere to get away.
It's Joe Belesne.
I wanted some time to hear you say.
It's awesome to hear
Nothing I said could make you
somebody who
stay.
shared, you know, a spotlight with who would eventually become a
It was just a day
icon, John Mayer.
away.
It's so cool. Nice of him to share a verse.
If I spoke my mind, you'd be surprised. I've all too much to say, with all the time. Street lights high, scan your eyes. Don't have to speak, thoughts are mine.
Have we had a mention of Neon yet? I don't think so.
Driving on black and neon.
Oh, we did. Yeah. Black and Neon. Okay. So you kind of get the idea. You know, it's certainly, like I said, song structure and efficiency in song structure are definitely learned skills. And, you know, but this is, again, as I said earlier, you know, everything Mayer does, and I would assume even 1996 John Mayer, is very intentional. I don't think that they were aiming to write a super tight 2.5 minute pop song when they came up with this. It's kind of a dreamy, floaty sort of thing, which is really cool. I do want to read Eastie 7's Instagram caption, because I do think there's a lot of really cool stuff in here. So Eastwood Allen is your name also. Just, you know, so referring to somebody as their Instagram name is kind of weird, but I end up doing it because some people I only know from their Instagram name, so it's kind of funny. But so anyway, here's the caption. Before John Mayer's hit song in Neon, there was a different track originally titled Neon, recorded back in the summer of 1996 when JM was 18, 5 years before he signed with Columbia Records and released his debut album in 2001. So is the song called something like Neon, or is it actually called Neon? Not sure. You tell me, people in the comments. I'm sure you will. Let's see. So, recorded summer of 1996 on DAT machines, which is digital audio tape, precursor to everyone having GarageBand and all sorts of fun recording software on their computers and phones, in Fairfield, Connecticut, of course. And as we said, you got Mayer on vocals, guitar, and drums. Joe Belesne, sorry if I'm saying your name incorrectly, vocals, and Sam Morrissey on bass. Super cool. Now, again, I mentioned this is kind of an addendum to Eastwood Allen's documentary, Someday I'll Fly, which he did back in 2014. He said, I've had the fortune of speaking with some of Mayer's band members, both old and new, including Joe and Sam from his first hometown bands, Another Roadside Attraction and Villanova Junction, names that are probably familiar to the Mayer superfans out there. The guys shared memories and materials with me, including photos, cover art, liner notes, and several tape recordings, one of which was the song titled Neon, later titled something like Neon, to make a distinction between the two. Oh, interesting. Okay, now I wonder if the guys went back and retitled it after Mayer wrote Neon later on. So how cool is this that, friends of Mayer, who I don't know if he's still in contact with, I have no idea, but I mean, like, it's really cool that they trusted this guy, Eastwood Allen, to get some of these materials. I mean, that's really cool, that they feel like he's a good torch carrier, and he is, because like I said, the documentary Someday I'll Fly, which just turned 10 years old, is really cool. Go check that out. And so is this. So what do you think about 1996 Mayer's voice, his guitar playing, the song? What do you think? I mean, you can tell it's him immediately when he's singing. Obviously, he sounds younger. His approach to singing is a little bit different. The song is obviously very different than anything he did later on. But the fact that this was only 5 years out from a Columbia record deal, Aware Records, and his, the first pressing of Inside Wants Out, and then, of course, the first pressing of Room for Squares, that's amazing. That's an amazing progression in 5 years. Think about where you were 5 years ago. And then, and just how short of a time that was. I mean, that was 2019 as of recording this video. So the fact that much changed, that much growth happened in that amount of time is actually kind of mind-boggling to think about. It's a very quick progression, but you look back and a lot of these great artists have have times like that where it's like there's just this insane amount of growth. You hear early stuff and there are seeds of greatness and there's seeds of genius, and then you hear where their debut, where everybody kind of knew who they were, ended up, and like the fact that that amount of things can change in that short period of time to catapult them into the career that they will have is pretty incredible. Particularly, I'm somebody who's worked at similar things like this my whole life, and there were definitely periods of time of like more quick growth, but nothing like this. Obviously, that's why I'm on YouTube and wherever you're listening to this talking about it, as opposed to being somebody you're talking about. But that's neither here nor there. I just think it's really amazing when you see this trajectory, and it's evidenced here by the sort of original version of Neon. It's like I said earlier, it's not necessarily a song that he took and then transformed into what is probably one of the most iconic guitar songs, certainly of the last 25 years. People who don't even like John Mayer are like, oh yeah, Neon, I know Neon. And then they proceed to either say they can't play it like me, or if they attempt like me, they play it incorrectly and are immediately called out by the comment sections on YouTube and the internet. So check out some really, really great people on Instagram. I'm a new guy when it comes to covering Mayer stuff. So thank you to all of you who have embraced what I'm doing here on this channel and podcast and whatever you want to call it. But there are a lot of you out there, but particularly on Instagram, who just do some amazing work capturing what John Mayer's done and what he's doing. I mean, stuff that I couldn't even come close to. I mean, you're just compiling videos and going to shows yourself, and it's just really, really cool. And Eastwood Allen is definitely one of those people who has just, went above and beyond when it comes to production on these things. And he's got tons of other work too you should go check out. Really, really cool. So that kind of wraps up the official portion of the show. But as you know, if you watch these and listen to these, this is the part where I get to be, I'm not so worried about the algorithm. And those of you who might lose interest very early on, if you've made it this far, you're one of the real ones, as they say. So thank you so much for making it this far. I do want to reiterate, if you are interested in supporting the show, join the channel. It's going to be a lot of really cool things coming, only available to those of you who are members at a certain level of the channel. So if you are interested in that, please check it out. I would sincerely appreciate it. Of course, there are the super thanks with the heart icon below if you want to make a one-time pledge to support what I'm doing here. Of course, anything you do, whether it just be watching or liking or commenting, I really do appreciate. And it's been so cool to connect with all of you and so many of you. And thank you to those of you who have joined already. I really, really appreciate it. So where are we going with the show from here? Lots of places. I was actually in Nashville recently and filmed a couple episodes with a friend of mine down there. You'll be seeing those soon. Some fun discussions were had and some interesting perspectives, from another musician, another YouTuber, and another fan of John Mayer. So you'll be seeing more of those types of things. I hope that more guests are in the future. If you have any suggestions as to who you might want to see on the show, I am always open to suggestions of those types, really any type. So, feel free to drop those in the comments, or if you join as a member, you have a more direct line to make those suggestions about the show, topics, people you want to see on the show, whatever. It's all fair game at this point. And I keep teasing this, direction that the show is going to go, and it's coming. I promise you, I'll be able to tell you about it soon. I can't yet, but just know that it will hopefully be expanding the reach of what we're doing here on Everything Mayer. And just know that if you're watching this now, if you watched anything previously, you're in on the ground floor. You're on the ground floor on something that I hope continues to be really cool, continues growing. And, you know, the more Mayer does and the more different things and tours and albums, like certainly that's going to just give tons of things to talk about. So that's exciting. And I'm excited to have you along for the ride. As always, like, subscribe, comment, all of those fun things. And I will see you in the next one.